Morning, guys. Happy Tuesday. Trace and I are hanging out, having little Cheerios and hot chocolate, right, Trace? Yeah. Honey Nut Cheerios again. We're almost out of the box. Return to the healthy stuff. As we know, this was just a treat.
But if we're out, we can buy more.
We can buy more. You know, it's interesting contrast to think about sitting and having breakfast with my son. I spent the last couple hours just looking into what's happening in Venezuela. And check out this fact. According to one study, and listen, information coming out of Venezuela is tough to glean. But according to one study, 9 out of 10 Venezuelans are living in poverty, and many are waking up hungry, and that's because of the economic situation in Venezuela. So let me back up, because something happened overnight you might have already seen, but I just want to sort of put a fine point on it. The United States announced yesterday, really overnight, that we are pulling out all of our remaining personnel from our U.S. Embassy in Venezuela. And what you should know about this is when you see the headlines is most of our personnel that are non-essential personnel, you know, like families of diplomats, have already been evacuated from Venezuela back in January when the political upheaval really started to gain some steam. That's when a young politician who was basically the head of what's the equivalent of our Congress, although not exactly, but another governing body, said Nicolas Maduro, the socialist dictator, does not have the proper authorities. The election to elect him was not run properly. It's a corrupt process. I am declaring myself interim president, and I will oversee the elections, the next elections. So when this young politician did this, Juan Guaido, the U.S. government quickly said, yes, he is the new president. We're going to recognize him. And about 50 countries have followed. And the reason for that is to try to put pressure on the socialist dictator, Nicolas Maduro, to resign, to leave office, to change power. There's domestic pressure within Venezuela for that to happen, but there's also support of Nicolas Maduro. And there's a reason why the United States doesn't want him in power anymore, not only because of the humanitarian crisis in Venezuela, where the people are suffering. There's clearly not, an access to basic goods, but we don't like, and I should pull up a map if I can. If you get a chance today, check out where Venezuela is on a map. Because in our mind, you think, well, South America, it's far away. When you look at it on a map, it's not that far away. It's not that far away from America. And the close proximity of Venezuela is an issue for America because Venezuela has allies like China and Russia and Iran. These folks that don't love America. And so it gives them a foothold into the Western Hemisphere in close proximity to the United States. And that's not a great thing for us. So we don't agree with them politically. We don't like the humanitarian crisis. We want to make sure that we promote democracy where there is democracy in the world to promote. And we see this as an opportunity, a political opportunity, to put someone new in power in Venezuela for the first time in decades. So it's a crucial time in Venezuela, one to watch. And one point we cannot forget is that Venezuela has the most known oil resources of anywhere in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. Now, if technology changes and we can see oil in different ways, maybe they don't have that title, but right now they do. So they're an oil-rich nation where resources should be available to the public, where there should be a thriving economy. A lot of people want access to that oil. That's a completely different conversation, by the way, than one we're having today, but an important one to mention. So if you know something about Venezuela today, you should know we're evacuating our embassy personnel, all the remaining. Diplomatic ties have already been cut according to the Maduro government, but we recognize the new president, so we say, well, we had diplomatic ties with him. Either way, we're pulling everybody out of the country because of what's going on. One quick thing. Can I tell you something that happened in Venezuela? This is important. You know how we can turn the lights on in the kitchen?
Yeah.
In this country, you can't turn on the lights. There was a huge blackout this weekend over the last 5 days in Venezuela. Almost everybody in the nation has lost power. Hold on 1 second. And this has added a lot of tension. Tension against the Maduro government, and also the Maduro government saying America's to blame for the blackout. We don't know the cause of the blackout right now. I can't tell you. But either way, this is an increasingly tense situation in Venezuela, and one we're going to continue to watch. What's going on? But think about that, with your kids and with the electricity you have. Imagine you're not particularly a political person in Venezuela, but now you're really seeing these basic resources just sort of disappear. And now you're wondering, well, wait a minute, who really should be in power? And is that promoting you to political activism? Did you just burp in my face? Wait a minute. Come on. You want some more Cheerios? Do you want some more? You just want to hang out? Okay. So I think it's important, when we talk about political stories, even overseas, I think it's really important to try to put people in two boxes. These are the conservatives, these are the liberals, these are the opposition party, these are not. But the truth is, I'm sure there's a lot of people like you, potentially, that don't necessarily have a firm political belief, that just want the best for their kids. And there's a lot of people like that, even though they don't have the loudest voices here in America, but also overseas. So we can't forget that. Okay, can you? I love you. Come here. I love you. Okay. Another thing that's happening, I think, just in politics in America, I think you should know about is yesterday the Democrats announced that they're going to hold their convention in Milwaukee. And the convention, you guys, is not until next summer. So not this summer coming up, but next summer. But here we are way ahead of the game. Remember, presidential debates actually begin in June. True story. But there could be several reasons that the Democrats picked Wisconsin. One being that Wisconsin as a state voted for President Trump last time around. It was actually a bit of a surprise. Democrats didn't do a lot of campaigning there. And so just sort of interesting to watch the strategy roll out as you see the different political parties plan for how they're going to approach 2020. So just know that that's happening in Wisconsin. That was just announced yesterday. Also today in history, Janet Reno became the first female attorney general of the United States. I think it's easy to sort of forget, what does an attorney general do? Okay, they oversee the Justice Department. They're lead prosecutors in the country. So, for example, Janet Reno oversaw the prosecution against the Oklahoma City bombers. But she was the longest serving attorney general in American history. And just sort of interesting to note, first female and the longest serving attorney general as well. How do you think about that, Trace? Is that interesting to you? Cool. Okay. So a couple of things I think you should know today. Again, Venezuela, what's going on there. Did you just hear that? Is that your sister? Okay. She's watching the video too. She's like, wrap it up. Okay. She's in her room. Let's go get her. Again, U.S. taking some major moves against Venezuela. Watch what's happening there. Major blackout, evacuations happening of all of our personnel. Definitely a story to watch, but not only because of what's going on with America, but because of geopolitics overall. Who are friends with Venezuela, who is not, check out our card on that today. Politics continue in America. As always, we're seeing the Democrats sort of figure out their plans for 2020. Ooh, see how dark it is? This is what happens daylight savings time. I mean, let the light in, people. And on this day in history, Janet Reno becomes the first female attorney general. Hey, Liberty. Good morning. Are you ready to come up?
Daddy?
Daddy's at jiu-jitsu. All right, guys.
He's
Yes, again.
all morning.
I know, but he went before you got up, so it's all good. So I was up really late last night, guys. Just share this story. I was trying, I'm trying to prepare for this speech for South by Southwest tomorrow. That's when it's going to be delivered. Yeah. You want to watch The Big Bad Wolf? Okay,
Yeah,
hold on a second. I mean,
Wolf.
people just get up with all sorts of requests. They want to eat. They want to watch movies. I mean, yes, yes.
I want to watch the old Big Bad Wolf.
The old Big Bad Wolf. Okay. Anyhow, I put up the speech together. I get it ready to go. I practice in front of Leif at like 11 o'clock at night. And I realized that I never mapped out the problem I'm trying to solve through SmartHER News. And so it's back to the drawing board today. This is the first time I've spoken about SmartHER News in front of a lot of different groups so far, but not sort of an open-ended conversation where I can explain, like, well, what is the problem that I'm looking to solve and how am I using technology to solve it? So I have to rework it today. It'll be fine, but, one of those things. So tomorrow morning, hopefully we'll have Coffee Talk a little bit earlier. We'll see. And then we'll go to downtown Austin and we'll do that speech tomorrow mid-morning. I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, guys, have a great day. And we'll talk to you later.